welcome to Perspective. I'm Bimanta Swastoya, your host, and today with us is Ambassador Melba Pria from Mexico. She's actually ending her tenure here. Quite a long time, 7.5 years.
Yes, yes.
Wow. So let's start. Mexico. When you say Mexico, I don't count because I went to a Mexican elementary school here. But in general, Mexico is well known in Indonesia, especially because there's also telenovelas, which made an inroad in the 90s already. But during your tenure here, what did you get the impression was of Mexico for Indonesians?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
Thank you for your audience to allowing me to be in their screen at home. I would say, first of all, a very sort of friendly, open relation with Mexico. Right. Everyone was interested. Immediately I say
football,
Saya, or I'm Mexico, and everyone would come up with football, telenovela, oil. So depending food, oh yes, the rasanya, you know, things like that. So always a true interest about Mexico in very many fields. So I would say that when I say Mexico, Indonesians sort of say, oh yeah, right. They might know, and I like them.
What about the other way around? What about Indonesia in Mexico?
Indonesia is always, in Mexico, Indonesia would be like, oh yeah, they dance very differently, or they are exotic sort of country. They have very good-looking presidents because President Sukarno was in Mexico many years ago, of course, and a few times. Right. So people of that generation remember President Sukarno as what he was, a very important statesman and and a charmer.
So he's representing Indonesia well in your country.
I guess so.
So you've been here for 7.5 years. That's quite a long period. Can you tell me about the high and lows of your professionally? Yeah, not personally.
Well, for us, 7.5 years is, yes, it is a little long, but it's not that long. For us, for Mexican ambassadors, 4 years is the minimum. They won't even look at you before that. Right. So 5 years is very common.
Average.
Then on year 6, my president came to Indonesia. Right. So impossible to leave.
2013.
Yes, and why would I? And then 14, you had elections. Right. So it was important for Mexico to be close, for us to have access to information from a person that more or less knew the country. And so that's how it sort of went on and on and on. Of course, as it always happens, when it's time to go, you sort of have a sort of clinch in your stomach. Because 7.5 years have been quite long years. Right. And so you've made friends, you've made acquaintances.
It's a second home to you.
It is, in a way, it is home now. The highs and lows. Well, of course, a presidential visit is always a high. And when I say the presidential visit, I don't only mean the Mexican president visiting Indonesia, but also the Indonesian president visiting Mexico. Mexico.
Was it APEC or?
No, actually, he came for a bilateral in 2008. And then, of course, for multilateral. So, you know, that is always a highlight. You always have so many headaches before the bilateral. You run around like a mad person. Everything has to be perfect. And then when it finishes, you're sort of sad because it really finishes very quick. And both visits were very important. We tried to do a longer visit, but because Indonesia was hosting, it was difficult, but it still was a state visit and was regarded as a state visit. So we're very happy that we could do that. Of course, having Indonesia and Mexico get to more acquainted. We have been friends for many years, and I always said, look, it's time for us to move forward. Friendship is a very good thing to have because it's the basis of everything. Trust is a very important thing to have because it's the basis of everything. But our relations are good enough to move forward, and that's what we did in 7 years. We moved forward in the relationship. Lows, well, you can be very autocritical. The things you didn't quite achieve, or didn't do completely right, or didn't do as thorough as you would have wanted. Of course, in a economy the size of Indonesia and in the economy of the size of Mexico, you would want more economic relations. But there were really no lows. critical. Yes.
No regrets too.
No, not one. Not one day. I still wake up every morning and I say, "Oh, I'm still going to work. Great, I'm still here." So.
Yeah, when you talk Indonesia-Mexico, I don't remember any bad habits, bad tension or whatever. No, it's been smooth sailing for almost 62 years.
Yes.
So we're talking more on relation is it economy or what?
What we did, let's say, in the last couple of years is to construct a framework that is a political framework where we can work around. Political framework initially. So the idea was that every time Indonesia thought about Latin America,
they think about Mexico.
They think about Mexico. Right. So it doesn't matter if it is in fishery or in health, if it is in sports or tourism, if it is in economy or law enforcement, they would think about Mexico. And that's what we did. We signed 17 agreements. 17 agreements that are working. We will have visits of ministers, as we had working visits of ministers here on both sides this year. So it doesn't matter, in a way, we work with the state. So the government has a smooth sailing from the beginning. It doesn't matter if it is one government or the other, because you have state agreements. Right. And so this year we hope to have the visit of Minister of Health, the visit of Minister of Fishery to Mexico, and hopefully by the end of the year, the first presidential visit of President Jokowi to Latin America would be Mexico.
Okay. We'll talk more about this after the break. Please stay with us.